My name is Nora, and what I'm about to share happened many years ago. But even today, the memory of it still makes my chest feel tight. This story goes back to the time when my younger brother and I were admitted to different universities in the United States. We were both originally from another state, and because of our education, we had to move to a large metropolitan city in the US. The kind of city that never truly sleeps, busy highways, constant noise, and endless movement. At that time, my father was working abroad, so it was just my brother and me. Initially, we stayed temporarily at the home of a family acquaintance while we searched for a place of our own. The plan was simple. We would rent a house, and once everything was settled, our mother would move in with us so we could live together as a family. Our priorities were very basic. We were students, young and inexperienced. We didn't think about energy, history, or the feel of a place. All we cared about was location. We wanted a house, close to public transportation, close to our universities, in a central, well-connected neighborhood. We didn't want to struggle in a city we didn't belong to. After weeks of searching, we found a house in a quiet residential area near a main commercial road, close to restaurants, grocery stores, and bus stops. The house itself was unusual. It had been divided into 3 separate rental units. 1 unit on the ground floor, 1 unit on the top floor, and 1 unit in the middle. The middle unit was the one available. What caught our attention was not how beautiful it was, but how empty it felt. The landlord, an older man, was surprisingly honest. While showing us the place, he casually mentioned something strange. "No one really stays long in this unit," he said. At the time, we laughed it off. In big cities, tenants come and go all the time. We assumed it had something to do with rent, maintenance, or personal reasons. Later, after we moved in, we learned something unsettling. The families living upstairs and downstairs had been there for years. Stable, normal families. They had raised children there. They were comfortable. But the middle unit? People moved in, and then they left. Rarely did anyone complete a full year. Everyone said the same thing. "We don't know why, it just doesn't work." Still, we ignored it. Classes had already started. We were tired, overwhelmed, and needed stability. So we moved in. From the very first day, the house felt different. It was dark, unnaturally dark. Even when all the lights were on, the rooms never felt fully illuminated. Light didn't spread the way it normally does. Each room felt isolated, heavy, as if brightness refused to stay. And then there was the cold. The city was known for its humid weather. Summers were suffocating. You'd step outside and feel like the air was pressing against your chest. But the moment you entered our unit, it felt like walking into a building with multiple air conditioners running at full blast. Visitors noticed it too. They would say, "How is it so cool in here? There's no breeze anywhere else." We took pride in it. We told ourselves we had chosen a well-ventilated, perfectly designed home. We were wrong. Very wrong. What we didn't understand back then was this. Cold doesn't always mean comfort. Sometimes it means absence. We believed prayer would protect us. We believed faith alone would erase whatever unease tried to settle in. So we stayed. And slowly, the house began to reveal itself. Not long after we moved in, the feeling of being watched became impossible to ignore. At first, it was subtle. A sense that someone was standing just out of sight. A pressure in the air, as if the rooms were holding their breath. Then came the figure. Every person in our household saw it, separately at different times in different rooms. This is important because what we saw was not imagination, and it was not confusion. It was the same thing. A tall black figure, far taller than any normal human. It wore something that looked like a long, hanging cloak, black, heavy, and shapeless, as if it absorbed light instead of reflecting it. Its face was the most disturbing part. There were features, but they were impossible to clearly describe. You could see that a face existed, eyes, a mouth, but they felt wrong, blurred, unfinished. And it was always smiling. Not a warm smile. Not a human smile. A stretched, unnatural curve, the kind that makes your body freeze before your mind understands fear. The first time I saw it, I was asleep in my bedroom. I woke suddenly with a strong feeling that something was wrong. My room felt colder than usual, and there was an uncomfortable stillness in the air. I noticed my bedroom door was open. I never slept with my door open. My heart began to race. Slowly, I turned my head toward the doorway. That's when I saw a face peeking in. Just the face, leaning in the way someone does when they quietly check on you from outside the room. Only this face was dark, hollow, and wrong. For a brief moment, I thought it was my brother. But then I saw the smile. My entire body locked. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I couldn't even turn away. I lay there frozen, staring at it while my heart pounded violently in my chest. The fear was so intense that it felt physical, like pressure pressing down on me. I closed my eyes and began silently reciting prayers, over and over, without stopping. I don't know how long it stood there. I don't know when it left. At some point, exhaustion overtook fear, and I fell asleep. The next morning, I told my mother. She listened quietly, then gently dismissed it. "You watch too many horror movies," she said. "These things stay in the mind." She told me to pray more and stop feeding my imagination. I wanted to believe her, but then it happened again. And again. Sometimes the figure stood at the end of the hallway. Sometimes it appeared inside different rooms. Always watching. Always smiling. And then something even more disturbing happened. My sister came to visit from another state with her children. That night changed everything. My sister had come to visit us from out of state with her children. It was supposed to be a happy time, family together after months apart. Around the same time, my father had also returned from abroad, so for a few nights, the house was fuller than usual. That night, the sleeping arrangement was simple. My parents slept in one bedroom. My sister and I slept in an interconnected room with her children. My younger brother slept alone in the adjacent room. The rooms were connected by a shared doorway, and one entire wall of our room was lined with old-style windows, the kind that open outward with metal latches, not sliding windows. There were 7 or 8 of them in a straight line. That night, something happened that still shakes me when I remember it. My sister and I both had nightmares. Different nightmares, but connected. In my dream, I was standing outside a cemetery. The same tall black figure stood inside it, waiting. It stretched its arms toward me, and its arms kept growing unnaturally long, wrapping around my body and pulling me toward the graves. I screamed and struggled, digging my heels into the ground, fighting with everything I had. I didn't want to go inside. I was screaming in my dream, and screaming in real life. At the same time, my sister was dreaming of the same figure entering our room. In her dream, it tried to leap over our bed and escape through the windows behind us. Her children were sleeping on the bed. She grabbed its leg in her dream, desperate to stop it from crossing over them. Then we heard it, a real scream. My brother. We both jolted awake at the exact same moment. I realized my own throat was burning. I had been screaming too. Then something impossible happened. All the windows on that wall flew open at once. Every latch, every panel, opened together. A violent rush of icy air filled the room. And just as suddenly, they all slammed shut. The sound echoed through the house. We ran into the hallway at the same time my brother burst out of his room, pale, shaking, and crying in terror. He hadn't been dreaming. "I saw him," he said. "He was standing right in front of me, smiling." That was the moment denial became impossible. 3 people, 3 experiences, 1 presence. Still, fear has a strange way of being buried under routine. Days passed. Classes continued. Life demanded normalcy. But the house did not stop. After that night, the house no longer felt quiet. It felt alert, like something had realized we could sense it now. Because of my studies, my schedule was brutal. Many evenings, relatives in the city would invite my parents and brother for dinner. I often stayed behind to study. That's when the house showed me another side. I would be sitting at the dining table with my books when I heard footsteps. Clear, deliberate footsteps. Not creaks. Not settling sounds. Footsteps walking toward me, and stopping. Sometimes they moved slowly. Sometimes they rushed, as if running. I could feel something standing just behind me. Breathing wasn't audible, but presence was. Whenever I moved, it moved. If I went to the kitchen, it followed. If I turned suddenly, there was nothing there. But I was never alone. This happened again and again. Then there was the landlord. Whenever he came to check on the house, he would visit the upper unit. Then the lower unit. But never ours. He wouldn't step inside. If we asked him to come in, he would say, "Just tell me from there. I'll take care of it." Lights burned out constantly in our unit. New bulbs would explode. Sockets overheated. Electrical failures happened only in our portion. Still, he refused to enter. Looking back, I realized something chilling. He knew. Not long after, we decided we couldn't stay anymore. Fear wasn't dramatic anymore, it was exhausting. We moved out within 11 months. Years later, the house was sold. The upper and lower units were bought and lived in. The middle unit? Still empty. We left that house without looking back. It wasn't panic that pushed us out, it was certainty. The kind that settles deep in your bones and tells you something is wrong beyond explanation. At the time, we didn't argue. We didn't debate. We didn't try to rationalize anymore. We just knew. Within 11 months of moving in, we found another house just a few streets away and relocated. The moment we stepped into our new home, something felt different. Normal. Warm. Alive. Sleep returned to us. The constant sense of being watched disappeared. No footsteps followed us. No shadows stood in doorways. No windows moved on their own. Life slowly stitched itself back together. Years passed. 15, maybe 20. We stayed in the same neighborhood, so we saw that old house often. Curiosity never left us, even if fear had. The upper unit was sold and lived in peacefully. The lower unit was bought by the family who had always lived there. But the middle unit, the one we lived in, never settled. Families moved in. Families moved out. Sometimes in days. Sometimes in weeks. That portion was sold again and again. Still empty. Still unwanted. As if the house itself refused to be occupied. I believe some places carry memories that don't belong to us. And some presences don't need permission to stay. We were just visitors. And we were lucky enough to leave. Even now, when the clock hits 3 a.m., I remember the cold air, the dark rooms, and the smile that never belonged to a human face. Some houses don't just shelter people. Some houses watch them, still changing owners, still unable to keep a family.